Let's use a little bit of color theory to make this awesome prehistoric card. Hey everyone, my name is Brennan, design team member for Stamp Anniething. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm going to be using the color wheel and some color theory to make my card pop. I probably should be using the color wheel more than I do. Also going to be using a key design element to make the card look really cool in my opinion. If you disagree, that's totally fine, but I really like how it comes out. Also, just a quick note, any of the Stamp Anniething products you see in this video were sent to me free of charge as I am a Stamp Anniething design team member. That is kind of the nature of it. So without further ado, let's get in this video so we can turn back time. And today, I'm going to be playing with the Yabba Dabba Doo release, which was the January release, and if you can't tell, it's the Flintstones. So I'm going to be using the Wilma stamp, as well as the coordinating dies that go along with it to cut her out, and then I'm also going to be incorporating the Fred pattern stencil into the background. What we're also going to be doing today is using a little bit of color theory to make our cards a little bit more perfect, and it'll look a little bit more cohesive, and I think it's going to be really fun, so let's get started. So I'm going to start by coloring the skin, and I'm not using the traditional Stamp Anniething light skin tone. I'm doing a little bit of a spin on it, so I'm starting with that E11, and I'm just going around her hairline. I'm not bringing that out too far. So next, I'm going to go in with E21, and I'm going to bring that out a lot further, kind of like rounding out her face, because if I'm just going around her hairline, it becomes a little more square, so I'm just rounding it out a little bit here. Then I'm going in with that YR20, and then I'm just bringing that color almost to the center of her face. Almost there, not quite, but this is like her true skin tone. The other stuff are like the shadows, and what this last color is, the WR000, that's like the highlight of her face, so that WR20 was basically her like true skin tone. So now I'm going to go back in with that E11. I forgot to put the cap on to show you, so I apologize. But I'm just like making sure that dark area stays dark, because sometimes when you just do one layer of color, it doesn't always look the best. Then once again, I'm going with that E21 just to bring that darker color down, because I'm just doing a second layer to make sure everything looks good. Then once again, I will go in with that WR20, just because we're doing a second layer. There's nothing really more to explain there. But I'm just bringing that color back to the center, and I'm not going to go in with that WR0 again. I'm just going to go over this entire thing with that WR20, because that can sometimes make your blend look a little bit better. But yeah. So I did her arms, legs, and neck off camera because I didn't want you guys to think I forgot about that. And now I'm going in with her hair, which will be orange. So I'm using that YR09 just to go around basically the outline of like that swirl. And I will do her bun, I think, off. No, I do the bun and like the sides of her hair on camera. So then I'm going to go in with that WR07, and I'm just going to drag that WR09 out and fill in a little bit more of the area. Once again, these are my two darker colors, and then this WR16 is like my true hair color, so it's going to cover almost all the remaining white space, not all of it, but the majority of it. And we're just going to bring that color down and just leave the tiniest little bit of space left to act as like the highlight area. And now we're just going to go in with that WR04 to fill in that lightest area. And that will be our highlight, basically. Because that's where like the sun or whatever light source is shining directly on our hair. And just give it a little more shading. So now moving on to her dress, and it's super simple what we're doing. I'm literally just outlining it in W1, Warm Gray 1, and then I'm going to go in with my colorless blender to kind of bring the color out a little bit and blend it. It's not going to be that visible on camera, and it's not going to be that visible in real life either, but it just adds a tiniest bit of depth, because in real life her dress would be white, so it just gives a little bit of shading to it and keeps it pretty white. So our Wilma is all done being colored, and for whatever reason, on camera, her face looks like a lot harsher than it actually is in real life, especially when it's down on my desk. It looks a little bit better when I'm holding it right now. I promise you, in real life, that blend is better, but I apologize. My iPhone is playing tricks on y'all, so I am sorry. But what we're going to do now is we're going to pull out a color wheel. So on the color wheel, we have something called complementary colors. Since it's on a wheel, there are colors that sit across from each other. Yellow-green is across from red-violet, blue-violet is across from yellow-orange, blue is across from orange, etc. So today, since I used red-orange for her hair, you could argue it's more orange, but I think it's red-orange, especially with the YR09. That's just pretty red in my opinion, so we're going to go with red-orange. So the complementary to that is blue-green. So these colors really just pop against each other since they're opposite, and they look really well. That's why red and green are perfect for Christmas, because they just pop so much. So for our background today, I'm going to be using some Aquatini ink and some Uptown ink, both from Catherine Pooler, and then I'm also going to go in with that Fred pattern stencil for the background. So this piece of cardstock that's in my stamp wheel, just so it can be held in place well, is 3 inches by 5.5 inches. You'll see why it's kind of small a little bit later. So we're going to be just you going in here and just doing some basic blending. I also like to tap off now my ink brush into the cap. That way you just don't really waste any ink. Works pretty well actually. So I'm just going to start with that uptown and work in from the bottom. The only downside to putting the cap down is that you guys can't see the color of ink as easy. So I do apologize for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm essentially just going to blend from the bottom up, and I'm just going to do it with the two colors. So I've gone about halfway up. I also just like to wipe off my brush when I'm changing colors, especially when it's dark to light. If I was going light to dark, I wouldn't worry as much, but since I'm going from such a dark color to a much lighter color, I just want a little less cross-contamination if possible. Okay, so I'm done with the aquatini ink, and I do just want to go in with a little bit more uptown down at the bottom here, because I feel like that transitions a little bit much. So I just want to make sure it's a little more cohesive. Okay, I'm liking that a whole lot better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Fred pattern stencil, and I'm just going to place it right on top. Actually going to move it up a little since it's slightly smaller than this panel, and you're not really going to be able to see it down here anyways, and it's okay. Because I'm going to just be going with aquatini and essentially doing the exact same thing I just did, making it a little darker at the bottom and a lot lighter at the top. And once again, I've wiped off my brush. So just going to take that aquatini and ink up my brush, and we'll start down here at the bottom, where you're not honestly going to see it that much just because of how dark it already is, but you'll see it a little bit more and more and more as we continue to go up. Okay, I think we are done here. I want to make sure that the color of the triangles stayed similar to the area that doesn't have the triangles where it's located. So I want this triangle just to be a tiny bit darker than that part of the background right there. And I think we did it, but we gotta see. Yep, we did it. So down here, like I said, you can't really see them at all just because of how light they are, but up at the top, you can see them, which I like. So all of our individual pieces are done, but now it's just time to put them together. So I ended up cutting like a backing piece for this background that's 3.5 inches by 5.5 inches. That way we'll have 1/4 of an inch on each side, just as a little border, because I'm not gonna actually be putting it on white cardstock. So I'm gonna be putting it on a like tannish gray. It's kind of like warm gray. It will match your dress kind of a little bit. So I'm just going to glue these down. Okay, so our card front is done. And the reason I did everything so tall and skinny is because of how she's shaped. She's very tall and skinny, so it works really, really well for the eye for everything else to be just like that. The card is almost finished. I literally just have to glue this card front onto the card base. Well, technically not the card base because, 4.25 by 5.5, but it's like the faux card base because I'll be gluing it right onto the card base. But I just have to add this to the panel back here, which is, like I said, 4.25 by 5.5. And that's of dolphin cardstock from Lawn Fawn. It kind of matches the dress just a little bit, and I know it's hard to see the shading on the camera. Once again, promise you it's there. It's just that W1, which is the warm gray one, and this is like probably maybe like a warm gray 2 or 3, or a similar color to those. I also added that Welcome to the Neighborhood sentiment, which is also from the same Yabba Dabba Doo stamp set, which is a part of the Flintstone release. So all we got left to do is glue. Again, all we have to do is glue again. And there we go. I really, really like how this card came out. I think that reddish orange hair works really well with that blue-green background. And what I also really like about this card, it just feels nice and heavy because of the amount of paper we used on the front, just because there's so many layers of it. So that orange really pops against that blue-green. I have to admit it. I guess color theory does work and should probably use it. Anyways, I really hope you enjoyed this card. Let me know what you think about using those complementary colors and making everything kind of tall and skinny to match the stamp. Thank you so much for watching, and if you want to purchase any of the Stamp Anniething products, I will link them down below, but absolutely no pressure. It's not an affiliate link. I'm not making a commission. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. Bye everyone, and happy crafting!